never before been done on Agent Mastermind. And who better to present this than the guy himself that's doing these webinars. He's been on the call with us before. John Ray is an agent. Man, John, I forgot where you're actually at. Are you in Illinois, my friend?
Yep, I'm right outside of Chicago.
Illinois with an S, right? Because I'm trying to change
Illinois
that
with an S.
because I screw that up every single time. So I'm trying to. I got a letter into them saying just put an S on the darn thing, you know, because it just sounds better. So, all right, everybody. John, take it away, my friend. I'm really excited to do. Of course, you are live on a webinar right now, and John's going to show you how he uses this to generate buyer leads, seller leads, get information out there, build his database. I guess is really the big thing here. Once you know somebody and you get to know, like, and trust them, they get to know, like, and trust you, that's when the leads start coming in with referrals and stuff like that. So, guys, if you're on this call through your computer, it's almost better to click the, go to the audio part of the webinar piece that you have there and click on the telephone, and it'll give you a number, an access code, and a PIN number to call in. And it's usually better than trying to fight your internet through your computer speakers because we get a lot of complaints about can't hear it. And I always dial in, so just a forewarning there if you're joining us for the first time or been on before and had some hearing issues as far as sound. Click the audio drop down. It'll give you there's a mic and speakers, and then there's a telephone. Click the telephone, dial in, and then if you have any questions, there's a question box down below on the right-hand side. Feel free to ask questions. And John, take it away, brother.
All right. Well, thank you so much for having me on the Agent Mastermind webinar. We're going to be talking all about webinars. So I really appreciate everyone for joining us today on today's session, and we're going to be talking about how we can use webinars for lead nurturing and a whole lot more. Now, I know that webinars it's kind of an unusual topic for real estate, right? We're much more used to hearing about social media or how you can use your website or IDX or open house strategies or FSDOs or whatever it might be when it comes to discussion of leads. So I appreciate you being here and giving this a try. And I'd like to give you a reason to stay with me on all this because I'd like to make the case that webinars can be your best lead conversion tool because they're so good at lead nurturing. Now, I know that webinars work because I use them a ton. My last one I did was just a few days ago. I'm an agent in suburban Chicago, Naperville, if you're around that area, and I also run a free website with all types of free resources and ideas on real estate lead generation. And in fact, you can find all the notes from today's presentation, except for the live video replay, all at my site at agentuprising.com/AMM4. Now, in all my presentations, I always say that nothing is magic. I think we've all been to real estate presentations where there's someone at the front of the room and they're pumping up some magic product and imply that if you only had this, you'd be rich in real estate. And then everyone runs to the back of the room and buys whatever it is. Well, I'm not rich off of webinars, and I'm not implying that you will be either, but this is definitely a tool that takes some work and some experimentation, but they can be successful. They can be successful in part because they're very new. Phone has been around for how many gazillion years, email has been around forever, but webinars are a relatively new medium that you can reach people in. They're also very creative because you can say whatever you want. You can put out there whatever you want. They're also very convenient. You jumped on this webinar here today, and what did you do? You clicked a link, and maybe you downloaded some basic software, and now you can hear and see a presentation. So it's convenient for you as the attendee, and it's also convenient for the presenter. And most importantly, it helps you bond with your customers and consumers. So just like right here, you're hearing my voice, you're getting a sense for my personality, maybe what I'm like, and if we had some video, you would see me in person. So it really creates a really nice connection with people. So here's what I wanted to talk about more today. What webinars are, why they're effective, how do we use them, what technology do we use, who do you do them for, and of course, most importantly, how do they translate to leads? So let's get to the topic at hand.
John, real quick, I got a question for everybody. Is there anybody on the call that's currently using webinars to generate leads? Is there anybody, just put yes in the box or no in the box or no? Okay, cool. All right. All right, sounds good.
All right. What are webinars? Well, you probably have at least a decent idea because you're on one right now. But essentially, they're nothing more than an online presentation where you as the presenter can communicate with at least one and hopefully more people all at once. Generally speaking, they are a great communication tool because they're super inexpensive or free for both the presenter and the attendees. They have the highest conversion of any means of advertising except for being live and in person. They build a huge amount of trust, and like I said before, they create a highly, highly personal connection. In addition, amazing skill is not required. You don't have to be a skilled entertainer. You don't have to have wizardry of or mastery of technology to do these. They're super, super simple, and we're going to get into that in a minute. They're also really effective because they cut through the clutter. Do you know any other real estate agents that are doing webinars? Probably not. So if you offer this to a new lead or someone that's been on your prospect list, it definitely sets you apart and puts you, a little bit above in terms of the way that you can communicate with these people. In addition, people are coming to you. This is one of the most awesome things about webinars, are because unlike our normal lives of real estate where we're going out and trying to track people down and hopefully give some type of listing presentation to a potential seller, people come to you. Literally, they're volunteering to come and sit through a 20 or a 30 or a 40-minute presentation all about what you do as a real estate agent. Now, of course, you don't want to make this a sales pitch because people are not going to tune in to a sales pitch. But if you can make it some type of educational and informational seminar, then you've got people on the hook and they're coming to you. And who wouldn't want someone to voluntarily come and listen to a 30-minute listing presentation? That's our dream job, right? So why is all this important? Let me stop here and tell you a quick story. And this is one of the main reasons why I think the concept of educating people with webinars is so relevant right now. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, and by that I mean basically 2004, okay? There was a time when when agents could advertise and they would keep all the leads that they generated. You would put it in a newspaper or you would do something like that and you would collect all those leads. But over the next few years, little tiny online thieves started popping up and stealing all these leads from us. Many of these thieves died over time, but a few kept growing stronger and stronger, and today there's basically just 3, and we know who they are. And to me, they're not just little thieves, they're more like a monster, and I call it the Realtor monster. And we know the Realtor monster all too well because they take our leads, right? And they make our job harder by confusing the marketplace. It gives out false information, which is worse than no information at all. And generally, it makes consumers think that they know what's right when really you know that it's only hurting them. And now the fact that consumers are gravitating towards the Realtor is not our fault because really it's impossible to compete with a company whose sole job and unlimited bank account is to use their information to convince the public that it knows more than us, that it doesn't need a real estate agent anymore. And now more than ever, it's succeeding in that mission, and obviously that hurts us. But luckily, just like with any monster, there is a point of weakness. And because the Realtor monster is really just a digital matrix of ones and zeros, it can never have what a consumer really needs, and that's you. You are the hero here. That's because you are the one with the real information. You're the one with the insight into the community. You know the knowledge about the schools, the experience to know how long a home will take to sell in that particular neighborhood, and really the skill to understand what that home is truly worth, not just the Zestimate, but what it's really worth. So you have the opportunity to give people what they cannot Google. They cannot find your personal expertise, your personality, or valuable insight in a computer algorithm. So you can really show them why you're the one true source of information. And webinars is the one thing that I think, in my experience, has been the best way to show consumers really why you're the person to go to. But beyond this, we have other competition, right? We have other agents in our marketplace. And with webinars, again, we have the upper hand because no one else is really using them. And while other agents are fighting to get attention by giving out the MLS or other standard tools that really aren't special any longer, you can give out something that no other agent can possibly copy, which is really you, your unique skills and knowledge and experience. And then we also have competition from the for sale by owner, right? They definitely think they know more than us. But webinars can be a friendly way to crack the door open with these people, get them on a webinar and show them what it really takes to sell a home, demonstrate your knowledge and experience. And a lot of these people are obviously going to hire an agent at some point, so why not you? This is a great way to kind of get that entry into these people's lives. Again, webinars do all this better than anything that I've been doing in my own business. So let me show you how to put these together. First, we need a topic, one that creates an enormous amount of curiosity in your prospect. Because in the end, great webinars actually teach something. So great topics can include anything that begins with how to, such as how to sell a home in 30 days or less, how to buy a home for dirt cheap. And so what we teach...
Where are you finding that content, man?
We're going to get to that in just 1 second. Perfect question.
Cool, man. Awesome, awesome.
The first thing is that we just basically have these two ideas built into us, how to buy and how to sell. And so the first one is basically our own listing presentation, how to sell your home, right? So when you sit down with a person at their kitchen table, you've got a listing presentation and you describe what you do, you describe how to sell a house, right? Now, like I said before, we can't make this a sales pitch, so we have to turn it into some type of educational type of content. So we're going to describe to people really how to sell their home because they're not going to be able to do it themselves. They might try if they're for sale by owner, but really most people are not going to. Also, on the other hand, we've got how to buy, right? That's why buyers use you as an agent. You know what the market is like. You know how much a home is worth. So you can teach people the simple concepts of how to buy. So when do you go and get pre-approval? How many homes should you be looking at before you actually buy? You know, all these things that you know from your own experience as an agent of how to successfully buy, that you just turn that into a presentation. But what if you're stuck? Or what if you just can't think of anything? Here's my secret little tip that's free. Go to the library and check out a bunch of books and use these as inspiration. So for example, I went to the library and luckily my library had about 14 or 15 books. I checked them all out, skimmed through all of them, and I found 6 that were really good. So I actually went out and bought those 6 so I had them and I could take notes. And with those 6 books, there's, I don't know, probably 1,200 pages, you know, somewhere in there. 1,200 pages worth of material that you can use as inspiration. And I'm not telling you to copy and rip these other people off, but you can use the structure of the book as great content. Each chapter is a significant piece of content that you could teach someone on one particular topic. That's how you can do webinars on a weekly basis or bi-weekly or monthly basis and not run out of topics because there's so many things that you could teach people about. There's so many subsegments to selling and buying. Any questions about that, Scott?
No, man. No, it's awesome, dude. You know what? Here's a question that I got burning. You know, and this is just talking from the past. The cool part about this is you are providing something that's not out there. I mean, it's out there, but you are providing webinars that you could provide to your database. By doing webinars, you're providing something that your database can send to their friends, family, and coworkers. You're providing something that can be posted on social media. So when you're listening to John, think about how you can use this strategy to stay in front of, make phone calls, use social media. There's all kinds of different ways. Really what it boils down to is reminding people of what they do. Remember the fact that 87% of the people said that they would use you again, where only 7% actually do. This is a huge strategy that you could implement that would allow you to stay in front of people, non-threatening, email, by social media, by Facebook, by LinkedIn, by Pinterest, by anything you want that you could use to build your marketing database and stay in front of them on a weekly basis. I mean, there's nothing better.
Yeah, and this doesn't have to be a presentation to hundreds and hundreds of people.
Oh,
like on this webinar here today.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of presentations I do, there's literally between 2 and 10 people.
Right.
And that's fine.
Perfect. Yep.
Because if someone's going to tune in for a half hour voluntarily on a Friday afternoon or a Sunday early evening and listen to me, those are prospects that are super clued in. They are serious people. They're not going to take that time if they weren't. So I don't care if it's one person. If that's who it is and it's going to take me a half hour, that's fine. I'm all about it. And that's one person that just got 30 minutes more with me.
Well,
and that actually leads me.
Here's the thing, John, is that they log in. It doesn't mean that they're going to watch the webinar, but what it does mean is they have some sort of interest in what you are providing as far as value for the webinar. It's a great reason to pick up the phone and call them.
Exactly. So the goal here is consumer education and to some extent entertainment, because you have to be hopefully somewhat interested to keep people's attention for a half hour or so. And generally speaking, we want them to understand that you know what you're doing and that you know what you're talking about, so that when it comes time for them to be super serious and hire you as a buyer's agent or on the selling side, obviously we want them to call you. We want them to get to know and like and trust you. I know you've all heard that 3-word phrase a gazillion and one times, but that's really what this is all about. But how do we actually do it? This is the technical component of how it gets done. I know sometimes that frightens people, but this is actually super, super simple. All you need is 3 things. You need your computer and an internet connection, and an audio, and maybe even video. So that's really about it. So let's start with the computer side of things. You can use a laptop or a PC, and I would recommend that you have a hardwired connection and not running off of Wi-Fi, at least when you're doing the webinar, because we want to have a solid connection to the internet as you can so things don't chime out. But that's really it. You can use Mac or PC, it doesn't matter. As long as you have a computer and internet, you're in business. The next part is audio. So for a microphone, you can use something as simple as your computer's built-in microphone. It'll sound acceptable. It probably won't sound great, but it'll be at least acceptable. People will be able to hear you. If you want to step that up, for probably 20 bucks, give or take a few bucks, you could get a really nice USB headset. So at least you got a microphone right over your mouth so people can hear you. Or if you want to step it up a little bit more, you could get a nicer USB microphone. The one I'm using right now, and the one I always use, is by Blue Microphones, and it's called the Yeti. And that link is on that link that I put at the beginning.
Like $100, right? 100, 120 bucks. I went somewhere in there.
Yes, not too expensive.
Yep.
And the video side, this is totally optional, but I like to do video. Usually what I do in the webinar is I have an introduction, and the introduction is all live video of me talking directly to the camera, specifically because I want people to see me. I want people to get a sense of my personality. And with video and seeing specifically live streaming video, people get that much more than just listening to me. Like in this presentation here, you saw a picture, but that's it. It was just a picture of me. But if you saw me actually speaking, you'd have a much better sense of me as a person, and you'd feel more connected in one way or another. So most laptops will have webcam, and that'll be totally fine. If you want to bump that up, webcams are pretty cheap as well. 30 to 100 bucks will get you something that's really nice.
I know.
And this is what it is. This is what I have. I took this picture 2 hours ago. So here's my laptop and the microphone, and then on top of my laptop, that black box, that rectangular box, that's my webcam. So super, super simple.
Cool.
So you've got all this, but now you need some type of platform to get it all done. The cheapest thing that will be easiest for you to use is by Google. It's just called Hangouts. And really it's super simple. You just log into this Google Hangouts and you schedule a presentation, and you can do it for free. And you can invite people to come and do it. Now the only downside is that it does get a little bit difficult to administrate and manage by, and what I mean by that is if you have, like, let's say 300 people on your prospect list you want to invite to a webinar, doing it just with Google Hangouts can be difficult to get them to log in and have a special link and all that kind of a thing. So for relatively cheap, you can upgrade. And these are two systems that I've used. The one on the left is called AnyMeeting, and they have a free version. And they can also do one for about 20 bucks a month. So if you want to just experiment with this a little bit, that's a great one to try out because it's either free with some ads or like 20 bucks a month. Or the one on the right is called Webinar Jam. That's what I use, and it's also super cheap. It's 300 bucks a year. And basically, this works off of Google Hangouts, and basically what it is, it's the front end to Google Hangouts. So if you want to invite people to a webinar, it'll automatically register them and keep track of who came, who didn't come, things like that. Plus, the awesome thing about Webinar Jam is that because it's connected to Google, which is essentially YouTube, it will record your webinar automatically as a YouTube video. So if you want to do a replay, or if you want to just use this webinar as a general video in your marketing, you've got it right there. You don't have to do it another time and record it because it's all done right on YouTube. And that's also good for your other marketing because it is live on YouTube. And you can, of course, hide it, but if you want to keep it public, people can find you on that webinar through YouTube, too. So it's a great way to go. And I think I said that's 300 bucks a year. It's not monthly, but if you're going to be doing this more than a few times, I would definitely recommend that route.
Webinar Jam, when you record it, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't it, when you do the webinar, one, you don't have to be live. You can actually do it, and then it automatically records, and then doesn't it dump it into your YouTube channel?
Yeah, there are a few different ways that you can use it. Like if you want to record a video and then play that as your webinar, like as a recording, you can do that.
Okay.
So that's nice too, because that's one of the things I'm personally looking at is because I do a bunch of these, I'm trying to look at a way to record it, not in a way that's deceiving to people, but just as a way to say, hey, here's maybe something like, here's my most popular webinar and here's a recording of it, access it at any time, or whatever you want to do. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of ways to utilize these. So now that we've got audio, video, we've got the platform, we've got your computer, we've got the internet connection, you're really good to go. So now it's webinar time. And this is really simple. You can just basically play your presentation as a PowerPoint presentation or Keynote, or just use PDF slides. Whatever it is, it can be really simple. You can see mine here today doesn't have fancy transitions. It's just basically text and some pictures and stuff like that. But as long as you're trying to provide incredible value and build that trust with people, that's really what you're getting at. Now, how does all this translate into actually getting clients? Well, that's important too, isn't it? So
right on.
At the end of every webinar, I'm always asking for something. So, for example, if I'm giving a webinar on a seller side, which is typically something related to how to sell your home in 30 days or less, I'm always asking either to meet up to get a home evaluation, or I'm saying for people to request an automated home valuation if they don't want to meet up with me. So what the process is here is that I've demonstrated to these people an educational and hopefully informational and entertaining presentation. I've demonstrated trust. I've demonstrated that I know what I'm talking about. And then at the end, it's okay to ask for something. And that's how you start to get some more conversions, specifically from people that are already on your list. So again, ask to meet up, ask for a CMA or to see homes, etc. Whatever you are looking for, you can use that. And you can try a bunch of different things. I've tried all different types of offers. Some are more aggressive, such as meeting up. Some are less aggressive, such as, hey, just leave me your email and I'll email you an automated CMA just to give you a general idea of price, something like that. Now, don't expect that every single person on the webinar is going to magically transform into a client, because it's not how it works. But some will. But even for those that don't, if nothing else, you've at least just had 30 minutes of really quality time to build rapport. You've had that 30 minutes to have people hear you, hopefully see you on some video, and understand that you know what you're talking about. So how do we apply this? Let's give you some ways on how you can approach this. We discussed how getting
John, there's one question coming in here, and I lost where it was because I was like going back and forth with questions. But they said, can you make an on-demand where more or less it looks like it's live but it's recorded? And you absolutely can. And I was and then Deborah Silva, thanks for being here. She says she uses stealth seminars. And I think Deborah at the beginning of the thing said she just started doing webinars. So congratulations on taking action on that. We'd love to hear your results after 90 days or so.
Awesome. Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Recorded is definitely a good way to go. It saves you time and hopefully expands your reach.
Right on.
Now we talked about how getting through to prospects is way harder than ever, and how webinars are basically your cheapest, easiest, and most effective way to stand out from your competition. But how do you tell people about the webinar? Luckily, that's pretty simple because pretty much any type of marketing that you're doing can be incorporated into your webinar promotion. I really love Facebook ads. You can run Facebook ads to cold traffic, meaning people that have never heard of you before, or if maybe you're doing some type of custom audience where you're uploading an email list of current prospects who've already heard of you, you can run advertisements there in addition to emailing them directly. You can incorporate webinar dates into any other type of advertising too. So if you do direct mail, just sold cards, just listed cards in your email newsletter, put a link to maybe an upcoming webinar, or if you do something relatively common, a lot of times I do them on Fridays at noon, there might just be a standing date that you can promote. Other place you can put it, of course, is just your normal Facebook posts, on your news, in your news feed, on Twitter, social media, your website. Call people. Maybe you've got a bunch of prospects that are super hot. Maybe you've got 10 really hot prospects. Give them a call. Say, hey, this Friday at noon, I'm doing a webinar. I'm going to be teaching you all about how to sell your house. So that's a great reason, an excuse to give your hot prospects another call. Door hangers, FSBOs, call people on or contact people off of Craigslist. Hey, I see you're selling your house, doing a webinar, might give you some good ideas, something like that. Of course, with expireds too. How about with buyers? Let's switch over to that. With buyers, kind of the same thing. With your prospects, you can get this out to them, or if you get leads from Zillow or Trulia, those are great, unique things to offer those people because they're probably contacting 20,000 other agents too. So if you offer them something unique, that's definitely something that could appeal to them. At open houses, when I do open houses, that's one way that I can get contact information from people. Instead of forcing them to sign in or having some other scheme, I say, hey, I'm doing a webinar on how to buy homes in, give the town name or something like that. And it's a much easier sell to get them to hand over their name and email address. And like on the selling side, social media and your website and all that stuff too. So it's all pretty much the same. Basically anywhere you can use to promote yourself.
Yeah, there's a couple people asking like, what's the best day? And I mean, have you tested it enough to know what the best day is? I think the mindset would be throwing it out there. Here's where I would do it. I wouldn't worry about so much the time. The best open rate for emails is Saturday morning. The second best day is Wednesday morning. And if you're doing the webinars at different times, that's when I would personally send the emails to get the opt-in, because what you're really looking for is somebody to opt in and give you their information so you can start that warm conversation with them. Two is, if you posted it on your Facebook business page, you could boost it and get it in front of a ton of people within a certain zip code, which would allow you to, catapult that exposure, build your name, build your brand. I mean, just a huge way to brand with giving something of value.
Definitely, definitely. So as a summary here, let's talk about some of the great reasons why we talked about webinars can be so effective as lead nurturing and conversion tools. They're a huge way to leverage your time so you can educate and sell to multiple people all at once. Super, super important there. They're a great magnet to attract people to come and voluntarily listen to you. And unlike home search tools that any agent can offer, your webinar is yours and cannot be found anywhere else. It's also the #1 tool to demonstrate your expertise as an authority and an expert. You can also record them, as we talked about before. You can use these recordings as marketing materials now and in the future. Also, one thing we didn't talk about is that there's oftentimes, like in Webinar Jam or some other services, there's live chat. So just like we have here on our webinar today, people can ask you questions and you can answer them. These are super cheap, low cost, and people get to know, like, and trust you. And in a way, they help you stand out because they impress people. Because no one else is doing this, it does look a little bit more advanced in my experience from what people tell me. And so it's a great way to impress upon people that you're technology savvy in this world of real estate when online is so important. This is just another way to demonstrate that you know what you're doing with technology. So hopefully you can see how this is setting you apart from your competition and how it's such a low-cost way to really get in front of people. And hopefully you can see how presenting educational and informational material can really help you to nurture these leads and to literally convert them over into people that become paying clients. So thank you very much for your time here today. And again, the notes from this seminar are at my site, so if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help you out.
Yeah, and if you guys want to copy the recording and the PowerPoint as well, we'll put it on the Agent Mastermind. Just get a hold of your loan professional that sent you here, and we'll make sure to get that. Let's answer some questions. So many webinar presenters use Google Events to promote their Hangouts only through Webinar Jam, or you can use regular Hangouts, or can you regular Hangouts use it? Google Hangouts is free. You don't need Webinar Jam. It has a really cool platform for the opt-in page like John did, but again, you don't need to spend, I mean, truthfully, if you used Google Forms, which we showed a couple weeks ago, which generates the form, which allows you to put up there what your information is going to be about at the beginning, gather some information. That's really what it's about. And then giving them the link to actually join the webinar, which would be through the Google Hangouts. It creates a link for you, correct? I mean, you could really realistically do this for free and not spend any money on the webinars. Webinar Jam, GoToWebinar is a great source for it. It actually does a recording for you. It doesn't provide the on-demand type thing. That's another system that you would have to pay for. That's a little more money, but still, I think just putting yourself out there and providing the information is a great source. So any way you do it is good. Do you run through beforehand to see if you are going to stay on track for the 30 minutes? That's a great question. So Dawn is saying, hey, when you do these webinars, do you kind of go through it first, or do you kind of just wing it?
Whenever possible, it's very prepared.
Yeah, the more prepared. We usually say a minute. We usually, doing these webinars, just from my experience, we usually give each slide about a minute of your time, give or take. So if you have 60 slides, it's going to be 60 minutes, 30 slides. How many slides did you have here, John?
Yeah, that's right on. I had, I think, 27 slides, and we were at like 32 minutes.
Right about 30 minutes. So usually a minute per slide is a really good indicator, or kind of tell you which, how long it's going to be. Again, if you're going to show when you're providing information for buyers, that would be a really good indication. If you're talking about credit qualifying, you're talking about steps, like how to declutter your home, and I mean, different pictures and stuff like that. I would give it about a minute per slide. It would be a good indicator for you.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he use GoToWebinar? The reason he does, that's a good question. Why not GoToWebinar?
Because I think it's $500 a month, but I might be wrong. Whatever it is, it's more expensive than what I've been using.
Yeah, I think it's 90. I think GoToWebinar, you can get it for around $80 a month.
Oh, really? Oh,
yeah.
I didn't realize that.
GoToWebinar. Yep. So you can, depending on how many attendees, if you choose your plan by how many attendees you're going to have. So we have, of course, it's 500 for 1,000. Like I think we have 1,000. We can have up to 1,000 on the call, but that's as far as they go. You can't have any more than 1,000. It starts to get crazy after that. Even at 1,000, it's a lot of people and a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah.
Let's see. I missed the Google form webinar. Yeah. Hey, Donna. Contact the loan professional to send you here, or just go to the Agent Mastermind page. If you're joining us for the first time, go to facebook.com/groups. /agent mastermind, and we'll make sure and get you the form webinar. That was a great webinar as far as how to create free forms, how to create, there's a couple of systems I showed how to, I think BombBomb was another one that creates forms. It's a really good one. So let's see.
Yeah, that was a really good webinar. I didn't know how you could do all those with Google Forms for free. That was a good thing for me.
Yeah. Do you ever do slides and video combined? Great question. So I think what you're saying, James, is do you do slides with your with your webinar webcam on, which I think you do both, one and the same, so they see you.
Yes, I do live streaming video of me through the webcam, and then one of the things that I am going to be actually trying to start doing here soon with this Webinar Jam system, and I don't get anything from Webinar Jam. I'm just saying it because it's my experience with it that it works.
Right.
But they have a new feature where you can actually throw in videos into the presentation. So what I'm going to be experimenting with is when I make these little offers at the end, I'm actually going to have like a 60-second video testimonial of like 10 video testimonials that I have, just to give some more social proof and stuff like that.
You know what? And you just reminded me of something. The difference between GoToWebinar and what Webinar Jam is, I believe, and you probably would know this using it, you can create a clickable link inside Webinar Jam that people can click on and take them to another web page.
Yes. Yep. You can do that.
Where GoToWebinar, if I was to put up a link on this screen right here that you're looking at, and I said, hey, click here, you can't click there. There's nothing that works that would click there. I would have to put it in the question box and give it to you that way. Where on Webinar Jam, it allows you to actually put a clickable link on the screen that they can go to, which is pretty cool.
And and I do that at the end. So like when I say, hey, let's meet up or get your CMA or whatever, I put that link on the page. They can click it. It goes right to my website with a form that they can fill out.
Perfect. So you could say, hey, find the value of your home in your area, find the value of homes in your area. You could have anything you wanted there. Typically, if you ever do webinars, make sure that you only have one call to action. So make sure it's one thing, not two. If for some reason, if people have to make a decision on which one, they won't make either. So anytime you do anything at all, make sure it's one call to action, not two. So it's one button, not a bunch. What is this conversion rate with webinars? Have you been doing it long enough to say, if I have 10 people on a call, I'll get one lead, or 20 people on a call, I'll get one lead, or have you done anything like that?
It's all different. Like I said, most of my webinars are between just 2 and 10 people, so they're not that big. Okay. I've had absolute cold traffic, meaning I put out an ad on Facebook, come to this webinar, they come to the webinar, and 2 days later I'm at their kitchen table. That's happened quite a few times. A lot of other times it's really just more like lead nurturing and just giving people the sense that you know what you're doing.
Okay. So you have had right from webinar to the table.
Yeah. I mean, that's not the norm, but it certainly happens.
Yeah, right. Cool. Between live video and slides. Okay, all right. Oh, live video. So here's the thing with video, guys. If you're on a webinar, and this is what we try not to do, if you're on a webinar and you try to play a video from the web, it never looks right or sounds right. It's typically there's a delay between the sound. Sometimes the sound you can't hear very well because I got to put my microphone up to it. So the cool thing that John's talking about on Webinar Jam, and we have no affiliation with Webinar Jam, but Webinar Jam is what they're saying, I believe, is if you put a video inside Webinar Jam, it actually will play and it should look right. And here's the difference. Here's the difference between Webinar Jam and GoToWebinar. GoToWebinar, right now we are live. You're seeing us live time. There's no delay whatsoever. Now sometimes you'll get a 1 or 2 or 3 second delay because of just technical difficulties, but 99% of the time when I'm talking, you're hearing me. On Webinar Jam, there's a 30-second to 45-second delay from what I say to when you actually hear it. And the reason they do that is they're recording the webinar the whole time. Listen to this. This is pretty cool. So say you start the webinar at 12 o'clock, and you log on at 12:15, and it's a Webinar Jam deal with Google Hangouts. You can actually start at the very beginning of the webinar and not have to go, oh, I missed all of it. So it's recording the whole time. That's why there's a 30-second to 45-second delay, because they're recording it the whole time as we go. Now, I don't we're recording the whole thing too, but it's live. It's real time. That's the difference too. So you could actually start a webinar, jam webinar, at 15 minutes in and start at the very beginning and watch it all the way through to the end, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's different. Yeah.
So it makes it difficult to do live chat because there's a 30-second delay.
So if I ask a question, I'm not going to get a response for like 30 seconds to a minute, you know. So that's the difference.
Right.
Yeah. So, hey, John, man, I appreciate you being here, brother. I appreciate you spending some time and showing us your what you're doing for success in Illinois. And dude, you're always welcome back, and love all the stuff you're doing. So, hey, if anybody's over in Illinois and looking for a you know, to brainstorm or you know, do a mind map or whatever with Johnny, he's in the Illinois area. I'm sure he'd welcome that as well. And
for sure.
And I appreciate it, brother, and I appreciate everybody being here. If you're joining us for the first time, join us on our growing Facebook group. We're at 14,000 plus. It's facebook.com/groups/Agent Mastermind. And we will see you right here next week on the Agent Mastermind. Everybody have a safe, exciting, and fun rest of the week. Bye-bye, everybody.